Well, hello, welcome. I'm glad that you're with us as we continue our chronological read through of Scripture. As we ended our reading yesterday, God's people were finally leaving Egypt 430 years after they had initially gone there. Now they're finally on their way. As we begin our reading today in chapter 13, God claims all of the firstborn of Israel as his own because he rescued them from the 10th plague, the plague that took the life of the firstborn of all of those who were not protected by the blood of the Passover lamb on their doorpost. The idea of firstborn remains an important theme throughout the Old Testament, and indeed it's the sacrifice of God's firstborn and only Son, Jesus Christ, that redeems us all from sin and from death. God establishes statutes to assure that the children of Israel remember this day. He establishes the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and he establishes that they should set aside the firstborn male of every womb. The redemption or death of that firstborn is intended to be a teaching moment so that future generations remember this great day of Israel's redemption. When God's people left Egypt, God did not lead them directly to the promised land, lest the hardship of war cause them to desire to return to Egypt. Rather, God led them by a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. Thus, he not only showed them where he would have them to go, but he also reminded them constantly of his presence. Now, God isn't quite finished with Pharaoh yet. The path by which God leads the children of Israel seems convoluted and senseless to Pharaoh, for the Israelites have camped on what appears to be a trap. So God hardens Pharaoh's heart, and Pharaoh determines to go and bring back the nation that he thought of as his slaves. When the people saw the might of Pharaoh with his army supported by 600 chariots pursuing them, they despaired, and they complained bitterly to Moses that they would be slaughtered here in the wilderness. But the Lord told Moses, who told them to go forward. Well, going forward meant to go right into the Red Sea. And there it is that God showed his glory and defeated Pharaoh mightily. First, the angel of the Lord moved from the rear of the people, moved from the front of the people to the rear of the people, and he threw Pharaoh's army into confusion, which of course delayed their pursuit. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the waters divided so that Israel could cross on dry land. Then God allowed the Egyptians to reform and again continue their pursuit against the Israelites into the Red Sea, where they were again thrown into a panic and then covered by the waters of the Red Sea as Moses stretched out his hand again over the waters from the other side. Thus, Pharaoh was utterly defeated. Israel was saved by the Lord from her pursuers, and the people feared the Lord and believed in him and in his servant Moses. Chapter 15 relates a song that's sung by the Israelites on the far shore of the Red Sea as they celebrate God's deliverance of them. A song of praise that's, well, I guess you could say it's summed up for us at the end in these words of Miriam. Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and the rider he has thrown into the sea. Miriam, by the way, is Moses' sister. She's the one that watched him in the basket as he was placed in the reeds of the Nile River. Well, after their celebration, it was time to move on. As they traveled into the wilderness, they found no water. When after 3 days they did finally find some water, turns out the water was bitter. So the people grumbled against Moses. That's a phrase that we're going to hear a lot of on this journey. Moses inquired of the Lord, who then showed Moses a log to throw into the water, which made it sweet and drinkable. Another sign, of course, that God is with them. God thereby demonstrated to his people that he would care for them. But soon we'll see this lesson is easily lost on them. Still, God told them that if they would diligently listen to him and do what is right in his eyes, they would keep his commandments and his statutes, that he would protect them from the diseases inflicted on the Egyptians. In other words, God would be their healer and their protector. It will not take long for Israel to show how inept she, like we, would be at doing as God requested. Well, may God be with you and bless your reading of this section today. I look forward to gathering with you then again tomorrow as we continue our journey with not only through the Bible, but at this particular point specifically with the Israelites. May God be with you and bless you.